This is going to be a little bit of a real estate lesson, and actually this is sort of directed at my clients that I have in Plymouth, the city of Plymouth. For those of you that might not know, it's somewhat of a historical town. It's been around for a long time. There's a lot of beautiful houses that are in Plymouth. They have a beautiful downtown district in Plymouth that people go to from all around southeast Michigan. You can spend a great day there, a great afternoon there. They have ice festivals, all kinds of things happening in Plymouth. But one of the unusual things is because they have a lot of older homes, a lot of people like to buy these homes when they're in disrepair. They need a lot of work. They need a roof. They need electrical. They need plumbing. They need a lot of things. And people will buy these homes as investments. Now, sometimes people will buy those homes before they get married. I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of renovating homes and turning them into their old glory, like so many of the other homes that you will find in Plymouth. But where that becomes a problem, unfortunately, for the person who's investing in it, they may have purchased the home before they got married because they had extra time to work on it when time was available. But when they get married, that's very often when they put a lot more money into it because they're going to have kids and then they have a spouse and they want to create an office in that house. So they want to make it a big, beautiful house. And what they'll do is they'll spend a lot of money after they get married because now they have the second income and they have someone else to help them, whether it's, the wife or the husband. I've had clients, the husband purchased the home prior to the marriage, and I've had wives that did it also because they were smart enough to see that it was a great investment for them and they would be able to turn it into a very valuable home sometime in the future. So what I'm getting at is when you put money into a home that you purchased before the marriage, you are actually increasing the value of that property during the marriage. And on top of that, you are using, more often than not, monies that you've earned during the marriage. Whether you take it out of your retirement account, even if you take out a loan, you're paying off that loan with your current income. That is probably going to turn that property into a marital property. So, for instance, you may have purchased a rundown property for, I'm going to say, $50,000, even $100,000, that you could live in, but it wasn't up to the standards that you might have liked. And then during the marriage, you put another $100,000 or $200,000 into it, and now that property is worth $500,000. Well, that $500,000 is more than likely going to be marital property. You might be able to take out the first $50,000 or $100,000 that you invested in it before the marriage, but all of that increase happened during the marriage. I mean, that's good news and bad news depending on which side of the request that you're on, which side of the divorce you're on. But it's not something that you can lose track of when you are considering what is or isn't marital property. One of the other issues that I run into a lot is where in the most recent one that I'm not sharing details, but the most recent one that I had was a husband who said, "This is my property. I owned it before the marriage." And candidly, he was gaslighting his wife and made the wife think that she wasn't going to be entitled to anything, even though they'd been married for 12, 13 years. She has a claim, all right, because marital property had been used to increase that property. And she was all worried that she wasn't going to be able to share in any of the benefit of the hard work that they had done to increase the value of that house. And she was going to be left homeless. I mean, she was going to do okay anyway, but she was worried about not getting anything out of it and having less assets after they had all been dropped into the house through renovations. So anyway, it's very important to know what the facts are, what the details are, to know exactly what your rights are when you have a historic home, particularly in a city like Plymouth. So if you do have any questions, if the shadow of a divorce is in your life, it's worth figuring out, okay, what are you going to be entitled to and what might you not be entitled to? But you want to get solid advice. You don't want to rely on your spouse to give you that information. You don't want to just rely on the internet because it hasn't been practicing for 40 years and doesn't have the experience to know what should or should not be considered in figuring out what you may or may not be entitled to. And you don't want to rely on your uncle or your aunt or your mom or your dad in telling you what they think the law is. What you want to do is call someone like myself. You want to call the Smart Law Group to ask those questions and get the right answer.